You know, for generations, retirement was seen as this finish line, the ultimate destination after a lifetime of work. But what if that destination is starting to look more like a mirage? Today, we're diving into a quiet crisis that's affecting millions of Americans, the whole trend of unretirement. Let's get into why this is happening. So let's start with a number, a really big one, 3.3 million. That's how many Americans, according to the National Institute on Retirement Security, had already retired and have now gone back to work. And look, this isn't just a handful of people who got a little bored sitting at home. This is a huge shift, and it's being driven by something much, much bigger. And, behind a number that big are millions of real individual stories. Stories of people who did everything right, who thought they had a solid plan, only to find out the financial reality of retirement was nothing like the dream they've been sold. The math just stopped working. So the big question is, why? Why is this happening? Well, it really boils down to three major pressures. Okay, so the first pressure point is this massive gap between what people think they've saved and what those savings can actually buy them in retirement. And the numbers here, well, they're pretty startling. Now take a look at this. It's really interesting because it tells two completely different stories. Federal Reserve data shows the average retirement savings for folks nearing retirement is over $500,000. Sounds pretty good, right? But that number is incredibly misleading because it's skewed by a few really, really wealthy households. The number we need to look at is the median, the true midpoint, and that's just $185,000. And that median number, that's the one that really matters. That's the reality for the typical American family. And when we start to break down what that amount of money actually provides, the picture gets, well, alarmingly clear. So what does $185,000 in savings actually get you? If you use the standard safe 4% withdrawal rate that pretty much every financial advisor recommends, that gives you about $7,400 a year. Per month, that's just $616. I mean, think about that. $616 a month. For most people, that is a catastrophic gap between what they have and what they need to live. So naturally, when your personal savings have a giant hole in them, that puts a ton of pressure on the one system that was designed to be the bedrock of retirement, Social Security. But the problem is, that bedrock is facing its own very real deadline. According to the Social Security trustee's very own report from 2024, the main trust fund that pays out retiree benefits is on track to be depleted by 2033. And just to be clear, that's less than a decade from now. This isn't some political talking point. This is a straight-up accounting forecast. So what actually happens in 2033 if Congress does nothing? It's not like the checks just stop coming, but they do get smaller, a lot smaller. If no action is taken, the system can only pay out what it's collecting in taxes at that moment, and that triggers an automatic across-the-board benefit cut of 21% for everybody. Now, this slide shows what is maybe the single most powerful financial decision most people will ever make: when to claim your benefits. If you grab it at the earliest age, 62, you lock in a permanently smaller check for the rest of your life. But if you can wait until age 70, you dramatically increase it. We're talking about a difference that can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. That's often more than people have in their entire 401k. All right, so the final piece of this puzzle, and frankly, it's often the one that just shatters retirement plans, is healthcare. It is the single largest, most unpredictable expense for nearly every retiree out there. According to Fidelity, a couple retiring today at age 65 can expect to spend, on average, $315,000 on healthcare. Just let that number sink in. And remember, that staggering figure is what you'll pay after you account for what Medicare covers. This is your out-of-pocket cost. So that big number covers things like your premiums, your copays, and prescription drugs. But here's the really crucial part: what it doesn't cover, and that's long-term care, things like a nursing home. With the average cost for that being over $100,000 a year, a single unexpected health issue can literally wipe out a lifetime of savings. And here is the direct link back to our main topic. The National Institute on Retirement Security found that a shocking 40% of older Americans will completely run out of money in retirement. And the main reason why? Unexpected healthcare costs. This is the wild card that forces so many people to dust off their resumes and go back to work. So after hearing all this pretty daunting data, you might be thinking the situation is hopeless, but it's absolutely not. In fact, the data also points to some clear, really powerful strategies you can use to protect your financial future. So let's walk through 4 moves you can make right now. Okay, here they are, 4 critical moves, and each one is a direct answer to the challenges we just talked about. First, delay taking Social Security for as long as you possibly can. Try to aim for age 70. Second, if you're over 50, take advantage of catch-up contributions to sock away an extra $7,500 a year into your retirement accounts. Third, run a healthcare stress test. Basically, treat that $315,000 estimate as its own separate budget item. Don't lump it in with everything else. And fourth, inflation-proof your plan. Look into investments like Treasury Inflation-Protected Securities, or TIPS. They're government bonds specifically designed to protect your spending power over the long haul. You know, all this data really suggests that the very idea of retirement is changing. It's becoming less of a fixed point on a map and more of, well, a dynamic financial strategy that you have to actively manage for your entire life. So I guess the question we're left with is this. Is unretirement just the new normal? And how do we all prepare for a future where the finish line seems to keep on moving?